Oh, for this video, for this tutorial, you're going to need Backdrop Designer, which you can find on itch through this here. I'll post this in the description. And we're going to run a little conversion on Monkey Island, and just I found some reference to the original Monkey Island here. And I'm just going to grab an image that's pretty easy to read. This is the PC version, and you can see there's quite a few little scenes here. I'm going to go for something a bit more horizontal like this, and I'm just going to save this to my desktop, and it's going to launch Backdrop Designer. So I'm going to jump over to one of the user tabs here and grab that image, and you see it comes in as a brush that you can stamp down. Right, so first off, I'm just going to switch it to the pixel mode of C64, which is kind of the favorite one. I'm going to turn the overlay grid down so we don't see the grid, and it's going to use the mouse wheel to scale up until I'm happy that this fits the scene quite well. So I'll just click that down, and I'm going to change the blending mode to something where it's not as noisy. Okay, and the dither image to checker or lines. You can see the preview down at the bottom here, how it looks, and you can also press B to toggle the brush if it's getting in the way. I quite like the lined version, and because it's mostly horizontal, I kind of opt for that, and just try a few different modes here. And you can also change the dither range to capture more information. Right, so that's basically it. But you can do other things. You can add a CRT effect over this. Now what I like to do is use this little camera capture tool here, which basically is going to snapshot anything with additional features. So things like using additive blending and the CRT effect. These won't be exported, so you have to. Oh, the CRT effect will actually, but what I like to do is just like capture it with it on, and then switch this back off, and it's basically captured that as a brush. Now you don't really see that until we come out of the pixel mode. You see the brush captured by this little camera tool is now like a baked version of what we had a minute ago. Right, and that can be useful. So what I'll do actually is to go to layer 14 and stamp that down, and I want to capture the whole thing because I want it to be stored. So do that, and it's called a CRT1. Okay, so it's now stored as a brush there, and I can undo that and go back to the pixel mode like that and do any further changes that I want to do. So this seems good, and I'm actually going to do the same thing, so I'll snapshot that, and you can see it's a brush. I'm just going to stamp it down with this button here, and it means when I come out of the pixel mode, it's actually there without the pixel shaders. It's kind of baked down. I'm going to turn the texture filter off just to see that better. Okay, and again, I'm going to capture this so that it's a brush, and let's call it non-CRT. Right, so I've got the CRT version and a non-CRT version, and if I click on any layer above, I can stamp that down, right? And I can right click and play with the opacity, so that's really me just playing with the strength of the CRT effect. And I can also do something else, because that was the last brush stamped down. If I do auto update, it's going to update that last brush, and I can bring in some blurriness to it, you know, to simulate a little bit of a blurry screen. I can change the color tones, and I can click on any of these to try and get a different tone from it. And this is quite nice. I like this. And it can go a little bit that way, and there you have it. You've got different export sizes, so HD is the default. It tells you this is the size it's going to be, and 2 times, 3 times HD, whatever you want. So we'll just go for HD and then do file export image, and let's call this Monkey Island 1. Right, so that's all very nice, but there's a lot of problems, like the text is bad and the CRT effect is baked in and things like that. So I'm just going to switch off that CRT effect. With the text here, I just want to make this black, so I'm just going to get any brush. I think there's a square brush here. Right click on one of these to make them all that color, black, replace it, and then I can go to layer 20 and just start to hide all this. Now I'm just going to make sure that's pure black, so right click black there. I'm just going to stamp this down in a few places to hide that. Okay, so that's done, and what I want to do now is export this. So I'm going to switch back to pixel mode just to make sure it's pixel perfect. Right, and we're going to export this way. Now, if you're in a pixel mode, it will, with this checked, it's going to export with a pixel dock size, which means that this 320 by 200 is the size that will be used. So I'm going to export image, and I'll call this MI pixel perfect. Okay, and what I want to do now is switch over to a tool that I like to use called McDraw and import that pixel perfect one. And you don't want any dithering, just default is fine. And what that's actually done is fixed a lot of problems. It's fixed the color restrictions for one, so it's not got any color clash, and the background defaults to black, which is fine because it's the majority and it still works pretty well. So with that done, I would do you can preview it in Vice as well, by the way, just to see how that's going to look on an actual machine, and that looks pretty cool. Right, there might be some other changes you want to do, and you can do that in here. And if you do add another color by accident to a block, you can always check with this and it will flag up as red. Okay, so I'm just going to undo that with U, and actually undid the image being imported. So let's bring it in again. Right, so that's really it. The text you can probably do as a high res thing. So anyway, let's export this PNG, and now we go back into Backdrop Designer, and I can load that one in. So that's in downloads. Okay, and if I click this one here, it's going to stamp it down. Now it's going to go to layer 21 just so we can see the difference. You can see what changes it's made now. There is a bit of an issue where it's not sitting perfectly right, and that seems to happen a lot. I think there's a little kind of shifting issue. But let's just go back to that, no pixel mode, turn that off, and yeah, you can kind of see the changes. There's not much difference. Right, very little in it. Just a few highlights here and there, so you can maybe bring those back in. So that's what you want to do to get it working for a Commodore 64 really, and we could go back to the loaded image here and scale that. I'm just going to put that down to fit there, and I can grab the text. So I'll just call this text UI. It's going to undo that and switch to the Commodore mode again. So I'm going to keep it the non-restricted one. You can see I can bring that in like that. But I'm going to switch to different modes here. I want a 320 by 200, right? And I can override the palette to the same one. And that way, because these pixels above are like baked that way, but the text isn't, so it's keeping like a high resolution. But you can see how it's a bit fuzzy. I could try just scale it until it looks half decent. It's never going to be perfect, this, like doing it this way, and the colours are a bit blurry because it's trying to match the colours and things. But yeah, that could give you a starting point if you wanted to redo that. Yeah, those few stages were a little bit complicated because if you don't have a kind of captured version of the pixel mode, then it is gonna like just do its own thing, like the way it did with the original image. If I switch to 320 by 200 this mode, then all the pixels are square, which kind of looks cool, and you can see this turned out a bit better. In fact, you could probably screen capture that. And yeah, in terms of the tones and stuff, you could do like let's see, what layer is this? So yeah, you could click on layer 10 and do preview and do some tone adjusting and see if any of these tones work better. You can choose the cutout mount as well and turn the black away and set the skies to black. There we go, that's a little bit cleaner. That gets you a starting point. Then you could capture that image. So I had to do preview. Oh, forgot to do bake, but let's just do that again. Just try and get these tones to be a bit nicer. Anyway, it's never going to be easy to get that right. Well, it just shows you the power of the things you can do. But once you're happy with that, you click bake, you capture the frame as a brush, stamp the brush down, and then capture the text. Let's try that again. Capture the text. Text new. And let's bring back these back into this mode. I'm going to switch that off. Let's actually go to that one there, no dither range or anything. I think it's going to lost track a bit where I left off. Yeah, it's got a bit messy, but you get the idea of at least the first step. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial and like to see what you make. Thanks for watching. Bye.